presented by Exquisite Timepieces. More about them in the description down below and later in the video. Today we're taking a look at not one, but two new Seiko watches. The Seiko Prospex 1968 Divers Modern Reinterpretation, in the form of the Seiko SLA055 with the limited edition Save the Ocean Gradient Blue Dial and the Black and Gold limited edition model number SLA057. The SLA057 is limited to 600 pieces and has a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $4,600, while the Blue Dial SLA055 is limited to 1,300 pieces and comes in at the same price of $4,600. Now, before we get into the features and specifications and the pros and cons of these watches, let me quickly give my 2 cents on the price discussion, because I can already hear some of the comments objecting to the cost of these watches. Some people, they do just get it. They understand that Seiko is not the bargain bin, low-cost watch brand that it was 5 or even 10 years ago. Then there's the people who think that any Seiko watch with a price over a few $100s is unjustified. I understand both sides of the coin. I get everyone's position here. Back when I got into watches, it was a time where you could get a very nice Seiko for well under $500. And for several years, I absolutely resisted Seiko's move up market. But as time went on, I came to a couple of conclusions. Number one, the watches that they're making today, which are watches with much higher price tags, are much nicer watches than the Seiko SKX007 that I bought 5 years ago. And number two, it was inevitable that Seiko would have to reposition the brand with higher-end watches if they wanted to not only compete and grow, but also survive. Seiko and every other affordable watch brand hasn't been competing with other watch brands lately. They've been competing with Apple, and they've been competing with the smartwatch. I imagine selling a $200 or a $300 watch is pretty hard in an era where most people are actually buying wrist-mounted computers for the same price. So the way I look at it is this: they either had to adapt or die. And while the prices on some of these watches can be a hard pill to swallow, given the quality of construction, the higher-end movements like the 8L35 found in these watches, and of course the limited edition status, well, I guess I just don't think that the prices are entirely unjustified. But enough about that, rant over, let's talk about the watches themselves. Regarding the size and the dimensions on these watches, they both come in at 42.5 millimeters in diameter with an overall thickness of 13 millimeters. And they have a lug-to-lug length of 49 millimeters with a lug width of 20 millimeters. Overall, I'd say that the size isn't bad, and on my 6.5-inch wrist, it's pretty wearable, but I do have one minor gripe. I do wish that the lug-to-lug length was a hair shorter. It's actually just over 49 millimeters, roughly 49.3, and if I had it my way, I'd have preferred an overall length of just under 48 millimeters instead. I think that would make for a watch that's a bit more wearable for more wrist sizes. And ironically, Seiko is probably the best brand at making watch cases with shorter lug-to-lug lengths, so I'm surprised they didn't do that here. But with that said, it's really not too bad, and at least it's not over 50 millimeters. Now, the other features include 200 meters of water resistance with a screw-down crown, a unidirectional elapsed time bezel with ceramic engraved and fully graduated bezel insert, a dual-curved and anti-reflective sapphire crystal, stainless steel Zaratsu polished watch cases, and the aforementioned 8L35 automatic movement. Now, the 8L35 is a movement offering 50 hours of power reserve, running at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It offers manual winding and stop seconds hacking, and the movement is based off of Grand Seiko Series 9S movements. These 8L series movements are actually hand-assembled, and they are adjusted in the same place and alongside Grand Seiko movements. So suffice to say, it's quite a large step up from your basic 4R and 6R series movements that are found in the most affordable watches from the brand. These watches come on a great, high-quality rubber strap, and they also include a great fabric strap as well. But as nice as these included straps are, I'm personally more of a bracelet kind of guy, so I do wish that these watches had a bracelet option as well. That said, it would probably further increase the cost on the watch, so perhaps it's best to keep it as is. Now, as far as the history on these watches, they are reinterpretations of the original 1968 Seiko Diver, but they are not reissues. And what's probably most important about them not being reissues is that they are actually a few millimeters smaller and a few millimeters thinner than the original watches for which these draw their inspiration from. And in my opinion, that's a really good thing because they are pretty good sized watches already, and I definitely would want to see them any bigger. Now, the thing that sets these two watches apart is entirely based on their looks. The SLA055 has a black ceramic with white graduated and engraved bezel insert. And it also has the beautiful limited edition blue gradient Save the Ocean dial colorway. And let me say, this dial looks so much better in person than any of the pictures that I've seen online. It really is a beauty. Meanwhile, there's the SLA057 with its black and gold motif. It has the gold bezel insert with engravings, and it has gold markers on the dial along with a golden handset. And here's something that came to a surprise, to me anyway. I actually prefer this one a little bit better than the 055, and I'm honestly not sure why. I mean, maybe I've been a little bit more into two-tone watches lately, and gilt dials have been piquing my interest more as of late. But if I were buying either of these, I think I might go for the limited edition SLA057 over the 55. But obviously, neither would be a bad choice. Of course, the Zaratsu polished watch case has Grand Seiko level fit and finishing, and I was really impressed with how nicely done this watch looks, considering it doesn't wear the Grand Seiko name. I've obviously seen plenty of Grand Seiko watches over the years, and I think that the case finishing on this is every bit as good as watches that cost several $1,000s more than these. And of course, as we have come to expect with Seiko watches, the low light legibility is excellent thanks to the legendary Seiko LumiBrite glow-in-the-dark luminescence. Now, the bezel action on these watches, it is quite good, but very much having a Seiko feel about them. And if you've ever used bezels on watches from brands like Rolex or Omega, you're no doubt familiar with their sharp and precise bezel action. On the other hand, Seiko watches, and these are no exception, have a bit of a softer, sort of spongy feel to the ratcheting action of the bezel. It's not a good or a bad thing, it's just different. It is what it is. So there you have it, a quick introduction to a pair of Seiko watches that are new for 2022, and there are a couple of watches that I do really like. I think Seiko did a good job with them, and I have no doubt that they're going to sell out given how limited the production run on these watches are. So if you're interested in these, I would highly recommend that you contact my video sponsor, Seiko Authorized Dealer, and brand partner, Exquisite Timepieces, and place your order before it's too late. This video is presented in partnership with Exquisite Timepieces, located in Naples, Florida. Exquisite is an authorized dealer of dozens of watch brands, including Seiko and Grand Seiko, Omega, Oris, Blancpain, Breguet, and many more. Exquisite also has an amazing selection of pre-owned watches with new inventory coming in daily. So if you're looking for your next watch, check their website, exquisitetimepieces.com, or call their store at 239-227-2932, and let them know that you heard about them from Guy in the Just Blue Fish channel. I can't recommend them enough.